Well, howdy, YouTube. We got a 1992 Chevrolet K 2500 for you today. Now, believe it or not, this is a Chevy, even though it has the GMZ C front clip, most of it at least. This is a truck I traded for a V6 long bed work truck, Chevy Silverado. That was actually my first truck, but this is technically my second truck, but it's my favorite truck I've ever had. Put a lot of work into it, just kind of painted it up, just making it look at least a little presentable. I got a bull bar on there, you saw, a big old bumper guard that just clips onto the front bumper. It's not one of the real heavy duty ones that, connects to the frame. But this has been a good truck, and I did a lot of work to it. It was a 1992 5-speed manual. It had the red interior and the red outside. It was red and silver when it came out of the factory. Here I am hauling some wood with my buddy. We could barely fit a cord in it, and this is before I figured out that you see how low it's squatting, one of my upper shock mounts was totally busted. So I had to, jack it up right there. That's what I'm doing. I showing the pictures of it. I also did my fuel pump when I jacked it up that time, but those were riveted in, that's the upper shock absorber mount, and they were riveted in. So I had to bash out and grind out and bash out the rivets and put some grade 8 bolts in there. Just put the heaviest duty bolts I could in there, because you don't want your stuff falling apart with lock washers and Loctite and everything. So yeah, this is a great truck, and I had a lot of good times in it, bringing it to the hot springs. And gosh, one time me and my buddy Brian, who you see at least half of him coming up here, but we're up in the mountains and just cruising along, maybe doing 20, 25 on a snowy 1-lane road, and all of a sudden someone doing the same thing is coming up the road, and we're almost about to crash into him, and he stops, and this guy's backing up because he wasn't going as fast as I was, and he was going uphill, and I'm going downhill. And oh man, at the last second, there's my buddy Chase's truck. We had it all loaded up, but man, at the last second, I just turn it straight up into the hill, and we just wedged right into the snow, and it was just amazing. Like, it was a cliff
Not
on the
bad.
left side.
Could be a little straighter. See how the brakes are. Woo, jokes. Oh, it pulled a little bit. It pulled a little bit, definitely.
Yeah, just a cliff on the left side. Here I am doing some work with my buddy Timmy. He helped me change out all my upper and lower ball joints and tie rods and everything like that. That was great. Here I got it stuck on a hill.
This is gonna hurt.
Yeah, straight cliff on one side, and wedge it though, but man, I just put it in 4-wheel low and just rocked it right out of there. The guy was not too happy. Let me tell you what, that was coming the other way. But here's some fish from Montana, some salmon. I didn't put that in my fishing videos. Forgot a couple ones in there. But the snow-ridden Chevy, I had a good video of it being pulled out of the snow after sitting for a while, but I didn't find that video. But I got a couple other here.
Yeah, I got a slight whine of my gears now. Let me just show you how to fix that.
That is not an OEM fix, though, but the reason it was whining is actually an amazing reason, and it did amazing. Like this video, you hear my little drone. I never took a drone video. I was taking one. That video was shot in Missouri, and on my way to Missouri, I forgot to check my transmission fluid, or just didn't check it because I was thinking about it. I was like, man, I'm going on a long trip and this is an old truck. I should probably check the transmission fluid. But I ended up not doing it because I couldn't find the dipstick, because let alone did I know on these old manual transmissions, they don't have a dipstick. They have a drain port and a fill port, and if it's full, it's at the bottom of the fill port. So you just stick your finger in the top fill port and see if there's oil in there. And I figured this out when I'm about 100 or 200 miles away from my hometown and heading out to Missouri, and I'm on a long trip, and all of a sudden my transmission goes. I don't know what's going on, so I was kind of scared. So I go to shift it to another gear, and it doesn't want to shift into another gear. It just grinds the gear. So I just shift it back into the same gear it was, and I went ahead and limped on to the next town. The next town was so small, it maybe had two houses. So I moved to the next. I went to the next spot with an auto shop, and I checked the oil there, and it was none.
Looks like the Chevy ran. Just took a couple of ones. We got some coolant. It looks all good. I'm gonna change this tire now. So it looks great. What do you think? Oh. Well, the Chevy is still running. One of the things is gone, so I don't care about that check engine light, and it's a Chevy, but she still does 85 just fine with the darn thing on, or well, with the gosh darn, what am I saying?
The spare on is what I said there. Yeah, I said it.
Ooh, I was wondering which one of my brakes was sticking, and it's the front left one. Oh yeah, she's sticking. Is it hot? Should I touch it? No. That's probably why this one seized it.
Yeah, no oil, and it got hot. So I ended up, I asked the guys around there what it would take to fix the transmission, and it cost, maybe a couple $1,000 and a few days wait, which I didn't have.
Lost some money, but that's okay. We got about $1 million of fun here down in the Chevy, bud.
So I went on the rest of my trip to Missouri, and what I found out was my synchros were toast. I had to rev match, basically, which is where you get your revs to the right RPM for the gear you're changing into, every time I'd shift. But I didn't change or rebuild that transmission for several thousand miles, maybe. I drove the rest of the way to California and then back to Montana, and it treated me good the whole time until I found another junkyard transmission and threw it in there, and that worked great, but I didn't replace the pilot bearing.
Whoa. That ain't kosher. Damn. And I lost another one.
Which was not a smooth move, because when I finally went back to Montana to go claim my truck and bring it up here to Alaska, somebody broke into it and pretty much trashed the whole thing, so that was a bummer. And I didn't replace the pilot bearing, and I didn't give up. I was still gonna drive it up to Alaska, but then, I had troubles. My wheel stud broke off because I forgot to torque down the tire before I took off. But, troubles aside, I decided to start taking on pulling the motor to replace the pilot bearing, which probably isn't the best way to do it, but I never pulled a motor and I wanted to do it. So I went ahead and did that because it was knocking a whole bunch and I didn't want something to go wrong on the couple 1,000-mile trip to Alaska. So I went ahead and did that. And actually, I managed to do all that. These are the pictures of, taking the motor out and replacing the pilot bearing. I probably don't have the best demonstration of that, but I did take it out, and I think I used the bread method, which was cool, which is where you jam a bunch of bread and grease in there and hit it with something that fills up the hole, and the pressure pushes out the pilot bushing, which is the reason I didn't replace it, is because I thought it was a bushing, which was better than the cheap bearing, but it was not. So always replace your pilot bearings if you ever get in there. You don't want to pull it just to do that. That was silly. So these are some photos of me doing that, and I learned a whole bunch on the end of that trip. Or the end of that thing, I left one of the oil lines off, so I was like, yeah, it's running great, but there was oil spraying all over the ground, so I had to stop it and clean up my buddy's shop after that. That was funny. But I showed a couple keys back there, and those weren't two different keys for the truck. This truck is old enough where it was a key for the doors and a key for the ignition. That's how some old trucks went and had it. And it had funny stuff where if you didn't lock the key all the way without it, you could start it without the key and stuff. So it was a funny truck. It had a lot of funny quirks, but in the end, I had to sell it because after all this work that I did and all my jerry rigging and whatnot, I must have pinched a wire or did some sort of electrical damage or something, because it was running great for a while, and I drove it over to my buddy. buddies where it was sitting there, and then it just wouldn't start. And I messed with it for like a day, but I had to go. And here it's sitting at my sister's, and I sold it for $750, as is where is, sometimes you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And maybe I could have held on to her a little longer, but I did all I could at the time. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this story of my 1992 Chevy Silverado 2500 heavy half ton. Oh, hey, that's a trailer that broke on us. And man, no wonder that's why my buddy might call me a farm welder. No, just kidding. But all right, everybody, I hope you learned something and enjoyed the video. Let the good times roll.